And we're back for another episode of Politically Speaking today, Wednesday, February 24th, 2021. I'm Ben Dryden, and welcome to Politically Speaking with Adam Jarchow and Patty Schachtner, presented by Kirkpatrick Law Offices. Matthew Kirkpatrick provides experienced, professional, and efficient and effective representation in criminal defense, collections, and other legal areas. For more information, you can find Kirkpatrick Law Offices on Facebook or simply go to mzklawyer.com, mzklawyer.com. Quick programming note, tomorrow, join me right back here at 8:30 on Facebook as I'll be chatting live with former Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Kleefisch. All right, so round two, here we go. Good morning, Adam. Good morning, Patty. How are you?
I'm great. How about you, Adam?
I am doing awesome.
Ben, you're looking.
I feel like that was forced.
Oh, it's not below zero anymore, so I am doing awesome.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
Yeah. Ben, you're looking awesome in your powder blue shirt. I love it.
Yeah, my wife just, so I don't buy any clothes for myself, ever. I haven't purchased something outside of something with dried wire on it in like 5, 6, 7 years. So my wife just buys everything. I just look in the closet and I'm like, hey, I got a new shirt. So, yeah, it was my first time wearing this one. So, Adam, let's start with you. Again, good morning. But before we get into it, I know we have a lot to get to: the governor's budget, vaccinations, with the mask order. Hopefully, we're going to talk about my favorite topic in the world, which is legalization of marijuana, only because, it's just fun to do. But before all of that, it's been a month. How are things going? What's been new in your life?
Things are going great. I'm glad that the cold weather has passed us by and we've made it through. Got to do a little snowmobiling during that time. Got down to Florida for a couple days last week, and that's why we missed our appointed time last week to do a little hog hunting and do some redneck stuff out on the airboats, doing some frog gigging. So it's good. Life was good.
Redneck stuff. Hog hunting. I didn't know that was a thing until you told me. Because, we were supposed to do this last Thursday, and then you couldn't make it. So we, thankfully, everyone were able to reschedule. But then when I found out I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know you could just hunt pigs.
There's nothing better than,
What's that?
nothing better than fresh bacon.
Well, no, I agree. I just didn't know you could hunt it. That's all. Patty, what has been new with you since the last time we were on?
Well, Joel finally came home. He was in California for 6 weeks, staying with our son that's in the Navy. Our son Dylan was officially pinned as a chief petty officer on the USS Coronado. So that super cool. And when the ceremony happened, they gave a big old shout out for Wisconsin, which was really cool. Awesome. And so he's back now and getting the motorcycle ready, and life is good.
Oh, good. That's so cool to hear.
Patty, vaccine yet?
Yes, I've had both. So I feel like Wonder Woman. Pardon me?
How about Joe?
No, he's too young. But he has so many pre-existings that it's one of those that you think that he would be on the list, but he's only 61. So he was at the doctor's last week, and they figured it would be another 2.5 weeks before the 60 to 65 age break. So it's coming. So I'm very excited.
Now, did you just admit that you're a cradle robber, or did you get it because you're in the healthcare field?
I would like to say cradle robber or cougar, but it's more healthcare field.
Okay. This show is already just going fantastic.
Oh, God.
All right. We do have, before we get into the other stuff that we had kind of listed we want to talk about, there was a question. We put up an announcement yesterday that we're going to be doing this today, and there was a question on our Facebook page, and this was from Michael Danielson. So I'm assuming you couldn't watch the show because he had asked to bring this up. And I'm quoting exactly what he had said. If you folks have the time, could you please discuss the topic of the Harvey Stower Trail being open for ATV usage? P.S. I am a supporter of using it for ATV trail riding. So I don't know anything about this. I don't live in Polk County. So is that something either of you want to talk about?
Sure.
Sure.
I mean, so yeah. So it just said, discuss the topic of the trail being open. So is this a controversial thing in Polk County that it's open? I mean, I don't know what it's about.
I'll let Patty go first.
So from my perspective, yes, it's been a controversial topic for about a year and a half, I think, 2 years maybe. Now, there's a lot of different things, integral parts in the whole conversation. But for me, I utilized the trail for the first time last spring, I believe it was, or maybe, no, it was fall, for the Polk County Suicide Walk. And was able to, actually get on the trail and walk with a group of people. It was very tranquil, very peaceful. Met a couple people walking, lots of people walking, couple people on pedal bikes. So it's right now set up for silent sports. Um, for the purpose of the mental health aspect that they use for it, it met all the criteria that you would want for one-on-one, just you and nature, and understanding the silence and the beauty and everything there is about nature, and having access to places that are quiet. So from my perspective, it was great. On the other side, I'm a snowmobiler. I love outdoor sports, and I understand that there's needs for these trails because it's everywhere. And it really comes down to, do we have to have the same things on every trail, or can there be specific trails that are for silent sports, bikes, walking, and then trails that are for, recreational, motorized? And I think that's where the controversy comes. That's just
Okay.
my.
I'm starting to piece it together now. Like, I don't understand what are we talking about? So this is a place where it's kind of like some private lakes. Can you have boats on them, or can't you? Kind of a thing, right? Or maybe that's a bad analogy. I don't know.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
Adam, every time I see you on Facebook posting something, you're always snowmobiling somewhere. So you must have an opinion on this. I mean, you have an opinion on everything, but this one, maybe you have.
I have, shockingly enough. I great that it's going to be open for. So what they've done is they've made it multi-use. It's going to be open for snowmobilers during the snowmobile season. It's going to be open for horseback riding in the fall, and then walking and biking in the summer. No ATVs, at least as of yet. And then in order to do that, they had to amend their master plan to have it approved by DNR. So they're having to what they call the displaced user groups, the skiers and the walkers and the snowshoers in the winter. They're making a trail along the side, and then they're making another place for them to do that down by D.D. Kennedy. So to me, it's the best of both worlds. There's nothing that agitates me more as a Polk County snowmobiler than having to ride on the roads all around in Amory to get through there, because you have to go around the Stour Trail. And then when you get to the large city of Deronda and you look back at the Stour Trail and you see no footprints on it, it's frustrating to me. I feel like this is a long time coming. This was what the original master plan had in mind, was a multi-use trail. Judge Gil Wyrick way back when put that on hold. The legislature did some fixes to it, and this has been kind of boiling under the radar for a very long time, that people have been fighting over this. There's a lawsuit filed by a group that wants it to remain silent. So who knows what will come of that? But I'm hopeful next winter, I'll get to snowmobile down the Stour Trail.
I can go, and we should have a whole show just about your Facebook post and snowmobiling. And Patty, I see you post a whole bunch of things. Yeah, I avoid nature as much as I possibly can.
Oh my gosh!
So I don't care if it's on a machine or just walking. I don't do any of that stuff. No, thank you. Nope.
No, I'm that weirdo that brings when I go snowmobiling, I bring my camera with me, and I'm the one that Adam's probably waiting for. And what the heck, did she crash? What's going on? And it comes back to check, and there I am taking the picture, and I'm like, look at this, it's so beautiful. What the heck? You don't have. I mean, let's just soak it in how lovely it is. That's me.
We have what advice for? Okay, this is a long one. I'm not sure how this even shows up on our page here. Can you guys read that? that show up. Trying to find the question here. What advice do you have for communities to protect themselves from predatory merchant developers?
Oh,
Either of you have a comment or a response to that?
that's a whole show
You're,
in on
you're,
of
you're out of
it.
luck, Brenda. Sorry.
That's a big one. There's so much.
I'll say this about the wind power thing in forest. It is one of these things that I feel like everybody's on the other side of the issue, right? So normally I'm very pro private property rights. If you want to do something on your property, go ahead and do it. But I do have some concerns about having a 500-foot, industrial wind turbine next to a house. That just seems to be,
weird.
More insane than a frac sand mine, right? I mean, it's
Right.
just incredibly intrusive. And there are certainly places like in the middle of nowhere, Iowa, in the middle of nowhere in Illinois and South Dakota where this works. But I mean, forest is basically a suburb at this point. So putting wind towers here, I'm not real sure that's the best place.
That's a good
Yeah,
point.
and I think it was one of those topics that really split a community that was really close and was really sad to watch as it happened. For or against wherever you sat on that. But I mean, there's definitely room for public comment in development of communities. Where do these go? I mean, we know they are part of our future. They're going up everywhere, but where's the appropriate place for them to be? And that,
Sure.
and I just think it's really sad that it was such a divisive topic for that community.
I'm Ed Redden, and you're watching Politically Speaking with Adam Jarchow and Patty Schachtner, presented by Kirkpatrick Law Offices. Attorney Matthew Kirkpatrick provides experienced, professional, efficient, and effective representation in criminal defense, collections, and other legal areas. For more information, you can find Kirkpatrick Law Offices on Facebook or simply go to mzklawyer.com. So let's get into some of our bigger topics we wanted to discuss. Number one is governor's budget. So we've kind of written down here what was good, what was bad, what was ugly. Patty, I'll let you go first. I don't anticipate a lot of bad and ugly from your perspective, so I don't know how much you want to get into that. But what was your thought when you saw, which a lot of people have called a liberal wish list? What were your thoughts when you saw the governor's budget?
So I did my homework and I took notes because, I am old, so I have to remind myself of things. So, so good, for good, healthcare and broadband. And I think we can all agree on the broadband thing. I mean, the one thing the pandemic has really shown us is that we need broadband, and it needs to be a bold investment that really impacts the entire state, not just parts of states. And I mean, there needs to be a collaborative effort on that. Healthcare, the Medicaid expansion, of course, I'm all for that, and it brings some resources to our state, and it's definitely an issue that is triggering on both sides, for or against. Good special education funding increase, I think, is really important, especially in our public schools. That is one of as a former school board member, that was one of those things that was super annoying when you're doing your budgetary work. A lot of money came out of general fund to fund special education, and that was really tough. Bad, in my opinion, is really the conversation about equity and what is rural versus urban, and what is it? I think rural Wisconsin has a real we just don't understand what equity in rural Wisconsin looks like versus equity in urban Wisconsin. And we need to do a much better job at funding equity programs in rural Wisconsin, whether it's in higher education, in credentialing, investing in agriculture, really in a different way. Because when we think about equity, we're constantly being told everything goes to Milwaukee and Madison. Mm-hmm. We hear that all the time. But the reality is, if you take a county like Burnett County, it's like 900 square miles and 15,000 people. So the people per mile when you look at it from an equity perspective, if you have a social worker or a public health worker that goes and has maybe 15 clients they have to see, they can see those 15 clients maybe in a high rise or in 2 blocks and do that. In Burnett County, that same public health worker is expected to see 10 clients, and they can be driving, most of the day just getting from point A to point B. So from a rural equity perspective, they need more help. They need more public health workers because of our we're so lowly dense in some of our populated areas, but the needs are the same. So when we look at rural equity, we have to look at it from a broader stroke, and we need to do a better job as rural people to really stand up and say, hey, this is what we mean. We need these resources. We need more. We need more social workers. We need more public health workers. We need more because
Sure.
we're so far apart.
Sure. So hold on, before we go any further, the goods. Let's go back to the goods, and then Adam, if you want to, I don't know, kind of address some of those goods that Patty believes that those were. Patty, what were those again?
Healthcare, broadband, special education funding, and transportation.
All right. Adam, your thoughts on that?
I'm going to address those, but before I do that, I've had a question that I wanted to ask Patty for 2 years about the.
Oh God!
All right.
About,
Okay.
about what? About what?
About the last budget.
Oh,
so
okay.
Remember, that was Governor Evers' first budget. He introduced it. The Joint Finance Committee marked it up, reduced the spending and the tax increases, went to the legislature on a purely party line vote. The Republicans passed a budget. Patty voted against it. Every single legislative Democrat voted against it. I don't care about the policy. I'm interested in the politics. That's what I want to ask you about, Patty. Governor Evers then signs the budget, and I thought, if I was Patty Schachtner, I'd want to beat him up for doing this to me by I vote against this budget. And there's lots of stuff in there that Patty could talk about when she was running against Rob, like lots of good stuff that was in the budget that Governor Evers kept touting. Mm-hmm. Did he not tell you guys that he was going to sign the budget? I was shocked that you voted against it and Nick Milroy some rural Democrats voted against it. From a political standpoint, why didn't his political shop say, hey, Patty, I'm going to sign this. You might want to vote for it.
Well, from a perspective of a total rookie, when I voted against it, there were some actual policy things that I was 100% against because I thought the investments were lower in areas that Governor Evers' budget was higher. And then the Joint Finance came in lower and they, did their magic. But I think at the end of the day, we knew that the governor was going to do whatever he was going to do with the veto pen and that this was going to happen. So I think at the end of the day, the biggest issue here is the lack of collaboration. The Joint Finance, pretty much, what they said was we're throwing it out and we're starting over. And that's what happened. And so, I really believe in the art of collaboration. So when you say you're going to throw it out and start all over, that's a no starter for me, because what you're saying is, I don't give a crap what you say. I'm doing it my way. And, life is not the song. Life is hard and life is real. And we got to work together to make sure that everybody feels like they're included in the budget process and not, I'm just going to cram it down your throat. Now, there you go. Deal with it.
So the reason I asked that question is because, in my opinion, a budget and anything else that comes out of the legislature or the executive branch is first and foremost a political document, right? And so my opinion of what the governor introduced last week or the week before last, whenever it was his announcement that he's running for re-election. If you look at that budget, he has taken care of every single interest group that he needs to take care of in order to run for re-election, right? It repeals Act 10 in large part. Who does that benefit? The unions. Right to work repealed. Who does that benefit? The unions. Increased school funding. Who does that benefit? The base of sort of public sector workers that he has. He's got some equity and inclusion stuff in there. Who does that benefit? He's got some stuff about not the Green New Deal, but climate change. So that's his environmental base. So I think you have to look at all of this through a political lens. And politically, I suspect what the Republicans are likely to do, and you've seen some of this, is say, this is crazy. It's a liberal wish list. We're never going to pass it. It increases taxes. It increases spending, legalizes marijuana. By the way, Republicans are really stupid to keep fighting marijuana, but they're going to keep doing it. And it keeps it. So they're going to use this as sort of a way to beat up the governor. So whoever becomes the Republican nominee to run against him, I think, is going to utilize those talking points that look at what the governor wants to do. He wants to raise your taxes. He's a tax and spend liberal, blah, blah, blah. So in particular, with an election coming up, I think we should look at the budget through that political lens. And Patty's right. Like broadband expansion, that's important.
Yeah.
School funding, that's important. How we fund our roads, there's very important things in this budget. But first and foremost, we have to understand the politics to understand why certain things are going to pass through this budget and why things might not.
And that's why. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Patty.
I was just going to say, I look at the budget as a values document. And I think, it's two different perspectives. And of course, I've spent my whole life working based on, whether it's an EMS or as a medical examiner or doing whatever I do, is working from the perspective of catching up wherever government does not do their part. And, or we've taken it out. So, when we talk about food shelves, it's because why are we in a state that is so hungry? It just doesn't make no sense to me. What are we doing that we have such a hungry state? But we have to have the government and then nonprofits. What the government isn't doing, nonprofits are taking care of. A lot of it just doesn't make sense. Then that's why I look at the budget as a value statement. What are the investments doing, making sure that all Wisconsinites are being taken care of?
Sure. And Adam, you brought up a very good point, bringing in the politics part of it, because that's actually my favorite part. I know, like tomorrow, we're having Rebecca Clayfish on, former Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor, but it's kind of like this worst kept secret in Wisconsin that she's kind of gearing up for a run for governor. Not necessarily is, time will tell, but when you start looking at the, I think it's the 1848 project and starting the PAC, and you're putting the things in line in order to have that option available when and if you decide to do that. And that's the stuff that I find so fascinating. And I never thought about that, what you were just talking about. If you look at the political part of it, you have to see that part first before you can kind of get to the next level. So that was brilliant. So thank you very much for bringing that up, because I wasn't aware of that one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you'll see, though, is through this process, because we'll know the budget won't get signed until the summer. So every month that goes by is another month closer to the gubernatorial election. And so you'll see, Speaker Voss and Senate Majority Leader LeMahieu using this budget in a way to benefit. I think that's what they'll do, to try to benefit Republican talking points and Republican politics leading up to the gubernatorial election. And they will think about this in terms of, how can our nominee use whatever we do to their benefit when they run against Governor Evers? And on the flip side, Governor Evers and his staff will be thinking about, how am I going to talk about this on the campaign trail next year? I mean, at the end of the day, you don't get to govern, you don't get to do anything, as I well know, thank you, Patty, if you don't win.
Thank you, Rob. Oh, God. No, but you know what's really fun is, at this perspective, is both Adam and I can bring this information to voters, and in a different from a different lens, I would say, and go, okay, let's look at the budget. Yeah. Let's look at the governor's budget, and let's look at the JFC budget, put them side by side, and see which one benefits me the most. Because me, the voter, I trust the politicians to tell me. And what I found out is it's not always truthful. It might be sorta and that, but my goal for the next 2 years is to take these budgets and put them side by side and go, what, you wanted this? Yeah, your guy didn't do that. This guy did. But your guy didn't do that, and you didn't take the time to read the budget.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah. All right, so we want to move on to the next thing here, but before we do that, here's my question here on the budget for both of you, but we'll start with, it doesn't matter. We'll go with Adam first. Adam, what is the one thing in the budget that you would have to allow in? Like, pick the one thing that, okay, if I have one thing in here that I would definitely support, and if you don't support anything, you have to in this scenario, and the one thing that you would completely remove.
Right. So I'll start in the inverse. What I would completely remove, and what the Republicans will probably, at the first thing they will remove, is the Act 10 and right to work repeals. We fought those battles. They were hard won. The Act 10 reform has saved the state and taxpayers something like $10 billion. There's no way we're going back. We'll never go back to that union-driven decision-making in our local governments. It will never happen again in Wisconsin. It just not so long as there's Republicans in control. They will fight tooth and nail for that reform. On the things that I like, I believe strongly, and I'm shocked that I believe this, because normally I'm not for much government spending, but we have to deploy broadband. That is essentially the new electrification of America. People cannot, and the pandemic has shown, people cannot succeed in our country today without high-speed internet. So I think that's incredibly important. You even saw the Republican governor of Iowa last week say, we are doing the whole state. We're done screwing around. We're going to deploy broadband to every single home in the state. And that ought to be our goal in Wisconsin too.
Okay. Patty, same question to you.
My is Medicaid expansion. Right. I think that is the first thing that would bring a lot of opportunities to us. What would I take
if you had to get rid of one thing?
I think the easiest thing to get rid of would be
easiest, or is that the one that you would do? I mean, it's okay if you want to go easiest.
I think that would be the easiest, because I think it's a battle that's not worth fighting right now.
Which one? I didn't hear that.
Act 10.
Okay.
I just don't think, I think it's in there, and it's a, like Adam says, it's a trigger point, but the reality is when you look at all the government entities, they've now, transitioned into this new way of doing business. Just to go back and start all over again, that's just wasting a lot of taxpayer money. And this is something that can be discussed at the local levels that can be discussed in a different way. That's just my opinion. Yeah. But as a school board member, if all of a sudden all that stuff happened and came back again, I just can't even imagine how hard it would be to redo everything. Yeah. So unions, people can organize and figure out what they want to do and start, creating their own stuff. But I don't necessarily know that government is the place to start it after all the effects of Act 10. Yeah. I just think it's, like Adam said, it's a no starter.
Well, that'll be interesting. When Rebecca Clayfish comes on tomorrow, she was lieutenant governor at the time that this happened. I think we're probably going to have a discussion about that. Curious to hear her thoughts. So let's move on here. We want to talk about vaccinations and pending Supreme Court cases, but I wanted to make sure we had a quick moment to talk about my favorite topic, just because it brings out the crazy in everyone, is marijuana and the potential legalization of marijuana, both medicinally and for a smaller amount for personal use. I have not been a proponent or against it. I couldn't care less. It doesn't directly affect my life in any way, shape, or form if this was passed or if it doesn't pass or if that ever gets done. Except the three biggest arguments when people try to convince me I really should be for legalization for personal use. The three things they always bring up are, well, alcohol and cigarettes are already legalized and those are worst, which I think that's a stupid argument because you're just saying that it's already bad, those things are. And this wasn't as bad, so, we should just do that. So that's a non-logical approach to this. The second is that other places do it, other states. Well, I don't care what other states are doing. And third is everybody wants it. Well, if you polled 9 out of 10 kids, they would say that we don't want bedtimes. Well, sometimes it doesn't mean that that's the right decision. It's, okay, you heard them, honey. They don't want to go to bed. So those really have not moved the needle for me. I'm perfectly fine getting down with, okay, let's just get this done. Fine. Adam, you had brought up earlier, and that was a question I was actually going to ask you, is why aren't Republicans getting this done? Because at some point they're going to have to. But Patty, what is your view of both the medicinal and also the recreational use, legalization of marijuana in Wisconsin? What are your thoughts?
So number one, I totally support legalization of medical marijuana. As working as a death investigator for years now, there are lots of people who are in hospice that benefit greatly with the positive effects of legalized marijuana. And when people, and it's like, when you take when you're in the dying process and you're using narcotics, you are not in the moment of the process of dying. With legalized marijuana, you are actually you're not unconscious. You are part of the process, and people who are in the dying process will tell you that it's because of the marijuana that they're able to be more into the moment. So
Okay.
I think that is a good argument.
Okay, let's stop right there. The medicinal, you're all for, right? And I think most people would, I can't say that. There's a lot of support for that. So before we go to the personal part, Adam, what are your thoughts on the medicinal, just the medicinal? Should that be legalized in Wisconsin?
Yes.
Okay. Patty, now the personal, that was fast. This is great. Patty, now personal use. What are your thoughts?
Personal use, again, I am for it. I think as long as it's regulated and taxed appropriately, that it is. I just don't. I have never seen a person overdose on marijuana. So just from that perspective alone, there is no data, none whatsoever, of a person overdosing on marijuana. So then from a policy perspective, I look at who are all the people that are against it. Mostly it's big pharma. So I wonder why, and why they're against legalizing it. So I really think that the time has come that it can be a conversation that should be had at the state level, and everybody come with their arguments and do what policymakers are supposed to do, and then make a decision. Sure. It's not that hard.
Yeah. And so, Adam, what are your thoughts on the personal use? Should that be legalized? And then actually, I'll just ask you now if you want to touch on it, is at some point, Republicans are going to have to get behind this, because with the growing support for this, they're the ones that vote. You're not going to have jobs anymore, right? Or am I missing something?
Yeah, so we should legalize it, and we should just be done with it. And Republicans are... it reminds me of the gay marriage battles, maybe back in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. The Republicans just don't know that the battle's over, but it's over. It's done. It's going to happen. And it's just a matter of how long they want to lose elections to fight it, right?
Right.
So what I tell people is you have to, in order to understand the politics of anything, you need to go to your local Republican Party caucus or Lincoln Day dinner, or your local Democrat Party caucus, or I don't know what they call their dinners, the Fidel Castro dinner or whatever they call their commie. But, you got to go to because those are the activists, right? So if I'm running for office for the state assembly or the state senate, I need people to knock on doors. I need people to donate a few bucks. I need people to make phone calls. Who does that? Do you do it, Ben? No, you don't do it. The people who go to those caucuses do it. The people who go to the dinners do it. And those people in the Republican ranks are still wildly against marijuana legalization. And so if you're a member of the legislature, you don't want to fight with the people that you got to go to the dinner with, right? And so until we persuade the people that we go to the caucus with and the dinner with that this should be legalized, it won't be. The Republicans won't get on board. And what will happen eventually is you'll lose enough elections that it will be forced on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the only way this seems to be. That's for something else. We're already way behind here in our topic, so we got to get to these last two here, and that is vaccinations. So, Adam, why don't you start? Where do you think we are right now in vaccinations? Is it going well? Is it not? Positives, negatives? What are your thoughts right now in Wisconsin on vaccinations?
It feels like to me that it's going better. I was highly critical of the governor on our last show, and I feel like it's going a little bit better, that we've gotten our act together. And this is the most important thing we'll do this year, because this is what will turn businesses to be able to be open fully, right? Restaurants are open and things are open, but there are still a lot of people that won't go, and they won't go until they're vaccinated. And I can tell you that I know the people that have gotten vaccinations because they're back at the restaurants after having not been there for a year. This is incredibly important for our economy. And if I was the governor, this would be the most important thing that I worked on for the next couple of months.
Real quick, so Larry Olson put, you both lost my vote. So two things. I think that was regarding the marijuana thing, I believe. So just letting you know, Larry, neither of them are running for anything or currently in office. Just plain. I see Larry commenting a lot of stuff, and thank you so much, Larry, for doing that. I just wanted to make sure. I guess I never actually stated that neither of you are actually. I just assumed everybody knew. You used to be, but you're, not in office right now. Patty, your thoughts?
Vaccinations, number one, I think it is going better. I had both my shots, and I'm very excited that I do. And I agree with Adam. It does give you a feeling of Wonder Woman. I have my shield on all the time when, now that I have my vaccine, and I am happy with anybody that wants it. The one thing that we have to realize is that when we're talking about logistics and the vaccination, it's not about Wisconsin. It's about the world. And as they manufacture these vaccinations, we have so many vaccinations that have to be done and manufactured and out and distributed and people. And it's just such a huge logistic thing that we have to be patient. But if you don't want to get vaccinated, don't, because there are plenty of people who do. Yeah. And just, those who want to get vaccinated. As soon as that opportunity comes to you, get vaccinated, because I can tell you that you do feel a little sigh of relief that you're not going to be as sick as some of the people who had that incredible, awful.
Yeah, my parents both got it. My mom a little more reluctantly. And that's her story to tell someday. But Dad, because they both had heart attacks last year too, so that's we should probably do it. Mom's just more of the old school, whatever. God's time, God's way. It is what it is. And I've seen a lot of people say that they don't want it, and thank you, because I think I've said this on our show before, that I'm in my 40s, but, smoking and everything else, I'm the kind of guy that would actually die in the 40s from it. So I'm actually okay if people don't want to get it, because that means I'm more likely to get it sooner. Adam, would you get it if it was out tomorrow? Would you get it?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like everyone, I like to travel, and at some point I don't agree with it, but at some point we'll have a rule that says you have a vaccine to travel. So whatever. I'm in. Let's do it. I get the flu shot. I'm not an anti-vaxxer.
All right, cool. We'll go together. We can go on snowmobiles.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm totally not doing that. Pending Wisconsin Supreme Court cases on mask order and legislative repeal. Adam, I know I just asked you to start this last one, but that was one of the things, because I'd like to ask you guys what you want to talk about. You were the one that had put that down. So where do you want to go with that? Adam? Patty? He'll be back on in a while.
Yeah. I think that it's lame and too late for the party. It's like, it's kind of sucking air right now. People are when we have the vaccinations there, people that want to wear masks are wearing masks. People that don't want to wear masks are not going to wear masks. And bringing it up to the Supreme Court at this point is so stupid, because we've been doing what we want in Wisconsin from the very beginning, so it's just dumb, and it's taken away time of actual policy making. And the people that are bringing it up, I'm just like, come up with a real controversial discussion. Taking away the mask mandate now is stupid, because it isn't going to do anything. Sure. Nothing's going to change.
I've heard, and actually, obviously, Adam, you can respond to that, but I have heard some people with their issue isn't the fact that we shouldn't be wearing the mask, or everything you just said is a lot of people believe that. Is this setting a precedent, or is it precedence or president? Whatever. It's that danger of what is the next thing. And I know that has been brought up before. What would your response be to that, Patty?
I was in the whole part of the HIV/AIDS things where wearing a condom, if you infected someone while having sex not wearing a condom, you were prosecuted for that. That was a bad thing. So for me, wearing a mask is like my version of a condom. So I'm doing my part.
Sure. Okay, that's a good analogy, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it works. It's an analogy for a reason, right? It's similar but different. Yeah.
There you go. Don't want to spread a virus.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do.
All right, Adam, are you wearing condoms?
I
All right, Adam, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally disagree with Patty, and I feel like Democrats are being short-sighted here. This reminds me of the time that Harry Reid got rid of the filibuster, and then because he did that, Donald Trump got 3 guys and gals on the Supreme Court. So, the mask mandate is done by an executive order under emergency powers. The statute says you get 60 days, and the legislature can repeal it. They let it go 60 days, 60 days, 60 days, and finally repealed it, right? And so now in the face of the People's House repealing those executive powers, those emergency powers, he issues a new one. I just want Democrats to think about if Scott Walker was governor or Becky Clayfish is governor, and they issue an emergency order that there's high crime, so everybody has to buy a gun. I mean, are we really okay with governors now making law on things that they just say, oh, it's an emergency, so I'm going to do whatever I want to do? I am so against it, and I don't care about the stupid mask thing. What I care about is the separation of powers. What I care about is checking executive authority. And that is so important to do right now, is to check that executive authority and make sure that the legislature is the body that makes the law and not a governor. Not because it's Tony Evers, but because I don't want Becky Clayfish making the law either. I want the people's houses making the law.
No. Patty, what do you think?
Well, after I got the shrill out of my earbuds, I feel like Adam was triggered there.
That's why we saved this one for last. Yeah.
Like, whoa. I just kind of think that, under the Walker administration, I feel like legislators kind of let him do whatever he wanted. And then all of a sudden now all the legislators are like, oh, we got to, control this power. And there seems to be a bit of hypocrisy here. So I think we need to really go back and look at, what exactly are the executive powers? Oh, wait. In the lame duck session, they took a bunch away because they were good enough for Walker, but they weren't good enough for Evers. So I think that is where the whole problem lies, is that when we had, the fear of governance when it's someone else in that office is really driving a lot of these decisions versus actual real issues. And I think that's the problem.
Well,
and I think Patty just made my case. Sorry, Ben. Because you cannot trust these folks. And so that's why the court has to step in and set the outer boundaries for what executive power is, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat in power.
Yeah. Like most things, as you know, I don't have a super strong opinion. I'm pretty much on the fence on everything, or I can at least see all sides. On this one, it's a situation where I wear my mask everywhere I go. My wife does too. It's just because we think it's responsible and smart. I don't need a governor to tell me to do it. I got Spooner House CEO Mike Schaefer says, yeah, still wear it. So I do. Having said that, yeah, actually, I'm kind of don't like the idea that, Adam, you had kind of touched on, that our governor's making policy. That's not good. Even if it is something that is for a good reason, well, who's to say? So it's almost like we're having two different conversations. One is it about the mask, and the other is about the ability to just continue to do these emergency orders. So, yeah, wear a mask. Everybody probably should, or if you don't want to, that's fine, but I certainly do. But, boy, this is dangerous world that we're getting into about potential or things that will be coming up in the future, regardless if it's a Democrat as the governor or if it's going to be a Republican as a governor. Boy, this could be weird because now, again, we have that precedent that's set, and I don't think that's a good thing. I just don't. But, I do think everybody should wear a mask. Just be clear.
I apologize, Real Patty. That's just one of my trigger points. You're right, is the separation of powers. Legislate.
Oh,
Yeah. It's kind of
You
a
know,
thing
I
for
already-
me. Right?
I already have tinnitus. I think you just stepped it up a notch, man.
Oh. All right.
Jeez.
Thank you, guys. Last words for either of you, or I'm sorry, is there anything else that you would like to discuss before we wrap it up?
No, can't wait for next month.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Adam?
I got nothing. Thanks, Patty. That was fun.
Yeah, cool.
That always.
All right, what are you guys up to the rest of this week? Anything big coming up anytime soon?
I'm getting a new tattoo on Sunday.
What? For what? You know, by the way, real quick, so my daughter, Annalise, turned 18, and she was thinking of getting a tattoo. And I said, you understand, when you consider getting a tattoo, you have to, you're going to be getting a whole bunch of tattoos. She goes, no, I just want one. I said, no, there is no one that has one tattoo. Because you have one, and then you're just going to get more. Do you know anyone that just has one? No. So what number is this for you, and what are you getting?
It's number 6.
Okay.
And it's actually, I'm not ready to unveil it yet, but one of the students from when I worked at the school district wanted to be a tattoo artist, and I reached out to her and told her what my ideas were, and she's designing it. So I haven't even seen it yet. So I'm super excited about it.
You're getting something permanently placed in your body, and you haven't even seen it yet?
I
sorry.
know what my vision is. I know what my vision is. I know what's going to be on it. So I'm excited.
Well, okay, so when Adam last time he was on called you a hippie, I'm starting to believe him at this point.
That's what I am.
All right, cool. Adam, how about you? What do you got going on?
Nothing as exciting as a new tattoo.
Well,
I can tell you that.
how many tattoos do you have?
I'm a Republican, so I just go to work.
Yep. Okay,
God.
with that, we're going to wrap this up. You've been watching Politically Speaking with Adam Jarchow and Patty Schachtner, presented by Kirkpatrick Law Offices. Attorney Matthew Kirkpatrick provides experienced, professional, efficient, and effective representation in criminal defense, collections, and other legal areas. For more information, find Kirkpatrick Law Offices on Facebook or simply go to mzklawyer.com. I'm Ben Dryden, and I hope you enjoyed the show as much as we enjoyed doing this. So until next month, stay safe, be respectful, and have a blessed day. Thanks, guys.